CATDC. It's Lisa here, Executive Director of the California Teacher Development Collaborative. And today I'm interviewing a fellow Executive Director, Deb Dowling of CAAS, the California Association of Independent Schools. Welcome, Deb.
Thank you, Lisa. It's exciting to be here.
Thanks for taking the time. I know you're incredibly busy. So Deb, prior to her work with CAAS, she was the assistant head for academic affairs at Chadwick School. Prior to Chadwick, she was the upper school director at Bridges Academy, and before that, the director of studies and middle school science chair at Harvard Westlake School. So Deb, your experience with independent schools is wide-ranging indeed. Originally from Melbourne, Deb has taught students from kindergarten through undergraduate in subjects ranging from music and philosophy through outdoor education and information technology. So amazing work you've done in schools. So thanks again for joining us. And you have also led programs for CATDC. Is this your second or third year?
This is my third year.
Okay. So Deb is leading our department chairs program this year. She's participated in many of our programs over the course of her career. And I'm just so pleased you're doing this, especially given your new role as ED. I know this is taking on a lot. Given that you are taking this leadership role during the crisis, during the COVID crisis, how has your view or your understanding of leadership changed?
To answer that question, I want to tell you something which seems irrelevant, but it'll become relevant, which is that if I look at an X-ray, I don't see what a doctor sees. You can show me an X-ray of a torso and I'll see all of these gray blobs, and I can probably make out the rib cage and some, like the heart and some other major organs vaguely, I think. But then a doctor can look at that same image and say, look, there's the old injury on the second rib. As I move into this new leadership role, I'm starting to realize that there's all sorts of stuff that I see as fuzzily as I see an X-ray, because I don't have the training and I may not have the background. And I'm learning the value of surrounding myself with people who see things that I haven't been trained to see or that I don't have the background to see, and to ask them lots of questions, because generally people assume that you can see whatever they can see. And so you have to first seek out these people and then ask them to tell you what they see. I've found that most obviously in terms of systemic racism. I've found that I can see systemic sexism like that, because I've been trained in academic feminism. I've lived as a woman, particularly my years in a physics department, and I notice things. I don't have that background or that training to notice systemic racism. So I need to surround myself with people who can see that clearly, like seeing the old injury on the second rib. And I need to ask them lots of questions and help them to show me what they see. And it's not just that, it's finances. It's relationships between people in the organization. There are so many aspects of things in the area where I'm trying to lead, where other people see stuff that I haven't yet learned to see. So that's my big takeaway, to surround myself with people who can see things that I can't see yet.
That's wonderfully said, Deb. And particularly as a former English teacher, I just appreciate the extended metaphor there. So I served as humanities department chair for several years during my tenure at the Athenian School. And being an executive director is challenging, but I found that department chair role to be incredibly challenging. Looking back, perhaps the one that has given me the most growth as an educator. Can you speak more to what makes this specific role in schools so hard, as well as so rewarding?
I've talked to a lot of department chairs, particularly those who are new to the role, and it's often the first step from other adults as colleagues to other adults as people who you're leading. And it can feel weird, it can feel wrong to be keeping secrets from your peers. I remember when I was a new department chair and I was called into a meeting with senior admin about how offices would be reallocated in a building move. And I came back into my office and my instinct was to say, hey, to my office mates, you should hear what's going on. And I couldn't do that. And that was very early in my department chairship. And I remember that feeling of wrongness. And I remember leading my first department meeting and thinking, who am I to tell these people to shut up? Not that I would ever actually tell people to shut up, but to move the conversation along to the next topic or to intervene when someone is dominating the conversation. It's that move from adults as colleagues to adults as colleagues who you lead that can feel really, really uncomfortable, I think. I think that's what makes it hard to answer your question most directly.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And now, so given that this is your third year leading the program and such a very different time, why, and you have this new perspective in your role, why should a very busy department chair take the time to come to an ongoing group such as this? What do you hope your participants will gain?
Well, part of it is I hope I can help them to feel more comfortable with that uncomfortableness. You know, that whole, who am I to be running this meeting? Why would I be in a position not to tell my colleagues about the office moves that are coming up? I hope that I can help people to feel comfortable in a role of leadership with other adults. Also, it's because in this time of COVID, your head needs you even more than they did in other years that they needed department chairs. Department chairs do some really important stuff in terms of just making things run smoothly in a school. And if a department chair is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, then it can take an already chaotic situation and tip it over into really bad. In our second meeting in this year's round of department chairs meetings, we're going to be looking at what are the nuts and bolts of the things that your head needs you to not screw up. Things like budgets, things like HR, things like not doing stuff that's illegal. You know, really practical stuff that is part of a department chair's responsibility. And you need to do that well and efficiently and quietly now when your head is really not needing anything to go wrong.
Absolutely. And it makes me think also of the community that is built in these types of programs, and that because you're meeting over the course of this year, when you do mess up, which inevitably some mess up is going to happen, you will have this community of folks supporting you to listen, to strategize about how you might do things differently the next time.
And community is something that we also talk about in terms of the community of the department that you're leading. Mm-hmm. Right now, I interview heads about what is your biggest worry, and faculty morale comes up as the number one worry time and time again. The department chair has probably more influence on faculty morale than anybody else. So we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about how to support faculty morale in these really difficult times.
That's great. It's so important. So just stepping back a bit for a broader view, do you have any advice for leaders at any level at this moment in schools? Maybe it's that don't take on too much, like another program in addition to your leadership role. I'm not sure, but what advice do you have for leaders in our schools?
Well, I can think of two things. I'll give you two things. One is when you're communicating out to other people, it's really important to be clear about your priorities so that you can say, when we have to adapt to these eternally changing circumstances, here are the things that I will consistently, reliably put at the top of my priority list. Because then in an atmosphere of incessant change, you're creating a point of stability. Something they can rely on is that you will put this one thing first. So that's a really useful thing for helping the people you're leading to feel that there is a point of stability and reliability in the world. That's a kind of big scale thing. A small scale thing is that as leaders, we often experience imposter syndrome. We often find ourselves in situations where it seems to be going badly. We don't seem to have the skill sets. What do I do? Go back to before you were promoted into this role, you were probably really good at whatever your previous role was. That's probably how you got promoted. Why were you good at that role? And how can you take those skills from that role into this one? And this is something I also do a lot with department chairs, because most of them were great teachers and still are great teachers. And really good teachers tend to become really good leaders. You just have to find a way to connect the things that made you a really great teacher and turn them into the things that are going to make you a really great leader. So that's my second thing on the more personal level.
Thank you so much, Deb. And that is an essential component of CATDC's mission, supporting teachers to become leaders. All teachers are really leaders and leaders are teachers, but how can you grow to your greatest capacity in the role that you have, given your sphere of influence? And you're a great role model for me in that respect, Deb, so thank you. To all of you at CATDC, we have a lot of programs coming up to help support you, develop your leadership capacity further. So check our website and look at the online update. And again, Deb, I so much appreciate your time today and look forward to more conversations.
Thanks, Lisa.